Haha, that was our little break.
Yes.
We're back, part 2.
Checking this
Arthur
book,
Briggs. Yeah, we're still in
the
Berlin.
Bible of the shellac collectors in Germany, Horst Lange. And he mentions the complete cast of the Arthur Briggs band. And the interesting part is that for years during the Berlin recordings, the whole year 1927 is really the same existing band. And I see interesting names like Arthur Briggs on trumpet and as lead, Jean Naudin on trombone. This was a French guy. I see Georges Jacquemont on clarinet, who was a French guy. René Dumont is a French name, but he was German, on tenor saxophone. Friede van Gils, a Belgian piano player who came with René Schmassmann in the 30s back to Berlin. And he was writing an article in 1937 explaining how he feels Berlin and jazz, although in the foreign countries, everyone says with Hitler there is no jazz, but he comes into a jazz capital, even in 1937, that reminds him his times and his days with Arthur Briggs. So he knew what he was talking about. That's the good thing. Mm-hmm. And we have Harold Kirchstein playing the banjo in this band and the guitar. Harold Kirchstein got very famous in the United States later under another name. He went to Hollywood and he became the recording head of record label Victor. And he formed an own band and he wanted his girlfriend to sing for Victor. And the Victor company would say, but your friend is just a dancer, so keep her a dancer. And he said, no, she really can sing. I want her to sing. We want to make a record. And so the company Victor said, okay, we give you a song. So in 1951, she got her first song.
1951, so
51. Yeah, that's after the war. Yeah, sure. But these people were active for a long time. And I've seen her on stage in Berlin, and she was telling the story about this song. And she said, and they gave me the song in the most strange language in the world, in Turkish. So she was singing Ushkadara. It was Eartha Kitt. So Eartha Kitt was the girlfriend of Harold Kirchstein, who emigrated to the States in 1938. So it's all linked together. It's so strange during decades.
Yeah.
Again and again, yeah.
So finally, we had our gossip section.
Yeah, perfect.
Like in every talk.
Yeah.
My God, Eartha Kitt.
Yeah.
Being the girlfriend of this guy who played with Arthur Briggs in the 1920s.
Yes.
Recording with Al Bowley.
And coming to Berlin in the 80s and back in the 90s, playing Follies, a musical in Berlin. And she was living in Winterfeldstraße today it's Airbnb. At that time it was a room she rented there, and a Theaterwohnung, and she came into a cafe in Winterfeldstraße where I was working at the bar, and I served her breakfast every morning, and I was always playing swing music. And then much more gossip now.
We love it.
A friend from Holland, from Den Haag, was in Berlin, and I knew that this guy and Eartha Kitt met before during a gala. So it was the first time that I spoke to Eartha Kitt, besides saying good morning and giving her the breakfast. I said, I know we have a common friend and he's living just on the other side of the street. It's the Dutch entertainer Robert Kreis. Shall I call him and ask him to come and join you? And she said, oh, you know this funny Dutch entertainer? Yes. Why not? But do you know who I am? And I said, but how could I not recognize Catwoman? And she said, it's been decades that I haven't been called Catwoman. And then sometimes I think, like, when I was young, I was a little vorlaut. a little.
I don't know how you translate that.
Yeah, me neither. But when I tell you the next thing, you know what I mean. She said, oh, you're always playing these beautiful cassettes with swing music and nice songs. And so do you know my music and my songs? And I said, yes, of course I do. She said, why don't you play my music? And I said, because you know it, that's boring for you. So she was laughing tears.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So that's very Berlinish. I recognize you. I don't talk about it. I won't play your thing. I won't tell you anything about your work because that's your work, and that's boring.
It's good that she appreciated the joke.
Yeah. She,
Uh,
I liked her. She was very humorous. So she came every morning having her breakfast and always making fun with me then. So in the beginning, she was sitting in a corner at a table, and then she came to the bar and she was sitting at the bar and we were chatting
Talking.
about
How nice.
everything, about men, about theater, about music, never about her. And I never asked her for an autograph. Maybe I regret. I don't know.
Yeah, that would be good to have.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
But she really was nice. Somehow
let,
she was nice. Yeah,
let's get.
interesting.
Yeah, she's also
Let's say
a
with this with
phenomenon.
this encounter with Eartha Kitt, and it was at least 10 days that I've seen her and we spoke and we were laughing together.
Where she's still
This experience from 25 years ago made it very easy for me to get in contact with Norma Miller.
there.
I knew how to approach her.
Somebody's coming in.
uh, Jürgen is coming in and he says hi and bye, and he has to do something, and he just needs
Hi,
to go.
Jürgen.
Yeah.
Let's hop back to the
Yeah.
20s and
Oh yeah. We've been with Arthur Briggs.
yeah,
Gossip
let's.
losed it. Gossip losed it. I'm
I'm.
sorry. Yeah.
I know it's
I'm not
okay.
sorry.
Hey,
I'm not
we can.
sorry at all.
No, we can do what we like. Eh?
Yeah.
It's how we want to do it. We just improvise.
Yeah. Well,
So
I think something very interesting that you mentioned, um, that I do not really believe, is you said that Arthur Briggs was completely ignored in the first discographies, and Charles Delaunay didn't pay attention to him. And
that's later. That's in the 30s. It
yeah,
says so in the book. I don't know if
yeah,
it's true. You have it in your
yeah, because I think this is very interesting. This is the very first jazz book that ever was published in 1931. So very near to the recordings we just heard of Frontières du Jazz by Robert Goffin, and it's really a nice.
Arthur Briggs was like they were like friends.
And Arthur Briggs is there with a big
Yeah.
photo, and he takes a big chapter. So of course he was recognized and he was renowned in
Yeah, he was
Paris.
everywhere, and Goffin was really a big
Yeah.
fan of.
And before these Delaunay discography, there was by Melody Maker the Hilton R. Schliemann discography, Rhythm on Record, that came out in 1936. And here we have photos of the Noble Sissel Band with Arthur Briggs, and he is mentioned with all the recordings with Freddie Johnson, and he is at least in 3 different record sessions, also with Coleman Hawkins. So he's in there.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that. Well, it has to do a bit about the recognition of Arthur Briggs for his work for the Hot Club de France. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
It's in the book. I'm not sure. You should. I don't know. Maybe there's a way to find out whether why the author claimed that, because I think the book is well researched in other ways. So
Yeah.
I kind of trust it as a good guide. And like you said, he had access to the family. So I don't know what that
Yeah.
means.
We doesn't know.
But that's in the 30s.
Mm.
Let's get back to the 20s. 1929.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's Arthur Briggs is back in Paris. I don't know exactly the month, but he's playing because there's the American show, the Blackbirds.
Yeah.
The Blackbird Review is coming to Paris, and Arthur Briggs is playing in it,
Mm.
and that's really a big thing. Adelaide Hall. We talk about that in Jazz Talk
Yeah.
number 5 as well.
Yeah.
She's there in this big stage production, and also Pegleg Bates and the Berry Brothers.
Yeah.
So that's like, and Arthur Briggs was there as well. I think that's really great.
Yeah.
You mentioned already Noble Sissel.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't remember. I have to read it again. But they kind of came together, and Noble Sissel asked Arthur Briggs for his band to go on a London tour.
Hmm.
And they made radio recordings for the BBC. I don't know if they're available. That would be so interesting to hear. I have no idea. I didn't research it. I just said in the book that I did. And they also recorded some sites for Columbia Records. I don't know if you have any of those.
I used to have. I'm not sure if I still have them.
I don't know exactly also which song. I didn't note. But there's something else. There, British Pathé
Yeah.
made a little film.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
I think it's fun to have a look because we have Arthur Briggs, not only like in that movie, the silent movie. Now we are in 1930, so
Yeah.
there is sound,
Yes.
and you can hear the band, Noble Sissel's band, and Arthur Briggs is there as well. He doesn't take a solo, but still, it's
Yeah.
moving image, and it's a really fun clip, and I really would like to show it. So let's try to share the screen.
Yes.
Maybe you have to are you still sharing your screen?
No.
I am not yeah, now here we have it. Let's do this. Share. Why it's not showing? It should be here, and I should do it big. Here it is. It's so much fun.
Was all aglow and heaven was in your eyes. The night that you told me those little white lies, the stars they seemed to know that you didn't mean all those sighs. The night that you told me those little white lies, I cried, but there's no forgetting. When evening is near, I cry, but there's no regretting. In spite of my tears, oh, the devil was in your heart, but heaven was in your eyes. The night that you told me those little white lies. Happy feet, I've got those happy feet. Yes, it's gonna be when they start dancing. I've got those, yes, little happy toes. I may hear too, they can't refuse, but that's the deep. They say, Bartolo, now we rescue. Get into your shoes, for the shoes can't be used, 'cause they go way. Tell 'em about it, buddy. I get you with a little, I'll get you. I've got happy feet. That he's got Come on, boy, don't sit down.
Yeah, that's a nice one.
I have to unmute myself.
Yeah.
That was so much fun. I love it. The tap dancer was the tuba player, and his name is Eddie Cole. I wanted to say that.
Yeah.
I don't. So he recorded with Noble Sissle. Before that, you mentioned Freddie Johnson. He recorded a lot with Freddie Johnson, and they also toured a lot. But there was some trouble about money, and they kind of split. And later, it says in the book, Freddie Johnson regretted that. Regretted that that he'd been a bit of an asshole. Let's say he didn't act like they wanted to take money with what is his name? Canetti?
Canetti, yeah.
Uh,
Brunswick guy.
the
He
two
was
of them.
responsible for Brunswick label in France. and he seems to have been an asshole. He was making so much stupid things, and he is in this book, and Panassier really writes about the bad character of this man, and he mentions examples where Canetti destroyed concerts of Hot Club de France by making an anti-concert, for example. And
Like
this is so
competition. Yeah.
ridiculous. And
He's mentioned several times in the book,
yeah,
actually.
yeah.
He also had Louis Armstrong in London,
Yeah.
and Louis he played so much that he was hurt. He got sick. His lips were all
Yeah,
swollen.
like a split lip. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And Canetti asked Arthur Briggs to come and replace Armstrong,
Mhm.
but he didn't do it. He was like, he didn't even answer his how you say, his calls. Not, I'm not sure it was phone or telegram or whatever. I
Mm.
mean, it wasn't an email, but
Yeah.
he ignored Canetti and he didn't come.
Yeah.
But what was in the summer? That was, I think, what was it, 1932? 94? Yeah. So
34,
it was
yeah.
way later. But Louis came to Paris to recuperate, and he hung out with Arthur Briggs during the summer, and they were talking and playing music, and Arthur Briggs said the technique of Louis Armstrong wasn't as good as his, because Arthur Briggs never had this problem. He was really well trained, and
Sure.
he taught Barelli as well how to.
Yeah.
But they hang out, and it was beautiful in the book. This image, and it describes like you had the biggest, best, greatest trumpet player of Europe hanging out this summer in Paris with the greatest and the biggest trumpet star of the United States. And this is such a beautiful image. That's a sideline. When they came back, they were back in Paris, I think, and then in November 1930, Noble Sizzle can have a tour in the USA. So Arthur Briggs is back in 1930 in the United States.
And you should mention that the clarinet and saxophone player of the Noble Sissel band at that time was Sidney Bechet.
Here we go.
Who used to be in Berlin before. So they found each other back in London to travel to New York. Yeah.
Yeah, so they do this USA. Yeah, in New York, actually, they play at the. I really love that. That's a thing from this book. They played also the Rockland Palace.
Yeah.
And the Rockland Palace was one of the first venues that was gay friendly.
Ah, okay.
And I think that's important that this book mentions all these historic facts, because a lot of people don't know about that, and that's important to know. The Rockland Palace was very famous for the Harlem drag balls, and it was called the Hamilton, the Hamilton, I think Hamilton balls.
Okay.
I lost my train of thought there. That's an important thing. So I thought that was a little side story, but he places it again in the drag balls were already going on in the 19th century. So that's also big important part of jazz history. The whole queer and gay community is very important. Well, you have to listen to Adam Brzezowski's talks about that. He lectures. He's trying to put these things together and talk about it, and I think it's really worthwhile and knowing more about that. Also in 1931, because they come in November, so it's a longer tour. They make Brunswick recordings. I don't know. Do you have something about that?
If you
from
like.
that time?
Yeah.
Shall we?
Yeah.
Somebody, some of the American recordings.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's like we didn't.
Yeah.
Let's improvise.
Yeah.
What
So
song would you
again,
have?
I'm going to share screen, and I mute myself.
Come on, you lazy steamer, move on. Clear that river, here we come. Watch her smoke, boys. Hear that engine humming, Lordy. Take a look at that shore. Just think soon I'll be with the folks I adore. Ah, there's a spot, look at around the bend. That's my home, my journey's end. Come on, you old man river, come on. Roll on, you Mississippi, roll on. There's Natcherstown, don't tell. Farewell, Natcherstown, mustn't fret, I'm upset, I'm getting worse, you bet. I got to holler so they'll hear it miles around. I want the world to know that I am Memphis bound, Memphis bound.
And you could hear him, I think.
Yes.
That was solos. Yeah.
Yeah, there were solos. This was really Arthur Briggs playing his very open and loud trumpet nicely. And of course, you could recognize Sidney Bechet on his soprano sax. Yeah.
That story.
Jaulen, we say in German. So really entering the band with a signature, yeah, here I am. And it was
Maybe
so
you could
funny.
say howling.
Jaulen.
Yeah, but maybe like howling, like a
Okay,
wolf,
yeah,
like a howling wolf, but like
yeah,
wolves howl, like
yeah,
ooh.
yeah.
Would you call that yowling also in German? What wolves do?
It's more a dog. Wolf is more heulen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh well,
Never mind.
close enough.
Never mind. That's interesting. So we can make a quiz. How would you translate jaulen into English?
Okay, what can they win?
They can win a nice record session with the two of us.
Oh yeah, private.
Private listening to some shellac recordings.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So back to Arthur Briggs in
Yeah.
April 1931, he goes back to Paris
Yes.
because he is seeing a change in New York,
Yeah.
that it's harder for black musicians actually to get a job. The 1929, the collapse
Yeah.
of all the financial shit was already happening, and it hit the United States earlier, straight away, than Europe. And a lot of places where the book says, and maybe that's true, a lot of white musicians took places of black musicians. It was easier for them to, of course, they got all the radio contracts and the touring contracts way more than the black artists. So there was not a lot for him to find. And
there was this huge segregation. So this
he hated
white
it.
orchestra wouldn't hire a black musician. So
Also, they toured in the South, and he hated it.
Yeah.
He hated it. He hated it being there.
He was really pissed, yeah.
So it was better for him to go back to Europe because black musicians, especially from the US, were so in high demand. And there wasn't like a shortage. The white musicians in Europe would blackface to play, to get jobs. And you had a lot of black people and people of color from the colonies, but they did not have the same status as American black people would have,
Yeah.
because they would be more interesting somehow.
And there comes the fun thing, because Arthur Briggs is not US American
No,
of
but
color.
he,
He had a British passport and he came from
I'm
the
not
Caribbean
sure.
islands.
I
So
mean, yeah. I don't know if I couldn't find in the book if he ever changed his nationality official.
yeah,
I don't know what passport he had in the end, but somebody, maybe was it Coffin or Panassier,
mm,
wrote about him like he is American, or
yeah,
it's some
yeah,
jazz critic, and he left it that way because
yeah,
it was better for him. It,
yeah,
it gave him more job opportunities.
yeah,
And yeah, so he went back to France, and it says in the book. I think that's also a thing that has to do something. It was racist as well. Europe was racist. Let's face it. Let's not beat around the bush. But it was not the segregation and the horrors like in the U.S. It was there, but it was not as apparent
yeah,
as in your face as in the United States. And another thing about, like you said, the in Europe, the people were really discovering jazz, what jazz was, and how it should sound like. And there were more fans, and they were writing about it.
yeah.
And
Oh
the
yeah,
book,
the first jazz books and the first really intellectual work on jazz
and maybe it
was made in
started,
Europe. It was the
yeah,
Europeans who
and
discovered
maybe
jazz as
even
an
it
art form.
started in France, maybe even
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah,
because
so the book I showed already, Aux frontières du jazz, From Congo to Swing, it's called. This is really the very first jazz book that ever was written about how jazz music developed and how the reception of jazz should work in a society. So this
and
is a French book that came
it's
out in 1931. So
And it's like you said, we were talking before, like it changed in the 20s, the whole jazz thing, le tumulte nègre,
yeah,
the,
yeah,
the whole,
yeah.
when Josephine Baker came, it was exotic and it was racist,
Ah, it should be
but it
savage.
was wild and
Yeah,
entertainment.
exactly. Yeah,
But it changed when jazz evolved, and the book says, and I think it's important, like the jazz in France would not have made the cut in Harlem. It
no,
was never of the same level.
no.
Uh, but to their credit, the French always viewed jazz as a black art form,
Mhm.
and that maybe give people like Briggs more opportunity here. Though the jazz was not of the level,
Yeah.
though he could have.
Mhm.
He didn't want to stay. It was his choice not to stay in the States. But musically, maybe he would have been more famous and a bigger star than how he was now in Europe. But he chose to stay in Paris. Um, even in let me see my notes.
Yeah.
That was later in 19 we're 1932. He came back in April, and he worked again, and he was I think probably at Bricktops again,
Yeah.
still playing as well. But he got into involved with the people like Panassier, with the Hot Club
Yeah.
de France,
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
and I think he's too modest. Arthur Briggs was a modest man. I think
Yeah.
he was honest and really, he had maybe some truths or beliefs, and he stayed true
Yeah.
to his own character. He never took the limelight. I think the author described him as a jazz ambassador. But he put together that band. He got Grappelli and he got Django together to play. People warned him for Django. People like, he never listens. He never does. You can't make any appointments with him. But he knew his talent, and of his brother as well. But he's a big figure. So that's why I don't think he was recognized for that. People forgot him about it a bit,
Yeah.
and that's what this author writes about. So, and that maybe has something to do with Delaunay and claiming like he's not in the discography of Delaunay. I don't know. Let's not make any assumption about
my,
that.
my exemplary he is in. So
Yeah.
that's
So
like, okay.
I don't know what's that about. But they play, and even there's a concert with Alberta Hunter, even
Yeah.
singing with a hot club group.
Mm.
Yeah, he plays with the Bricktops Hurlemites.
Mhm.
Uh, Partly they do some concerts, and the hot club, it's like a, how you say that? Well, it's like a club. You can be a member.
Mhm. Yeah.
Panache
Yeah.
started, and later Delaunay came to that club.
Mm.
And Panache wrote member cards.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
get a
Yeah.
like I don't know how it looked like, but they got a card. And like the first member of the hot club de France was Panache himself.
Mhm.
The second member was Freddie Johnson, and the third member, official member, was Arthur Briggs.
Mhm.
I think that was funny, and
Yeah.
they were recording together. And you
Yeah.
will have a song with some Berlin influence,
Yeah,
because
it's
this
really interesting
special woman.
and funny. I just took back this book and Do the Années Just by
Panache.
Panatier that was published in 1939-40. So he remembers the first 12 years of jazz in France. And I just was checking again, and here he writes about the beginning of the Hot Club de France, how they started to give concerts in a small cafe
Yeah.
called Wuthe Jazz. And they were looking to get some more response, and they were looking for another venue. So finally they fell into Salle Pleyel. This was a little later, but the very first concert where they had really advertisings for is in a room of the Petit Hôtel, Rue des Petites Écuries, and they found it's big enough. But that time we made a little of advertising, and we had some critiques that got invited to judge an orchestra that was composed by Arthur Briggs on trumpet, Big Boy Goody on saxophone, Peter Ducongé on clarinet, Freddie Johnson on piano, Maceo Jefferson on guitar. He was the guitar player of Sam Wooding and then of Louis Armstrong. And he stayed in Paris. He didn't go back with Armstrong, so he stayed in Paris. Fernandez on counterbass, and Billy Taylor, who was singing and playing bass again. So they had these black musicians, and they were excellent, and they had a fantastic resonance, fantastic critiques. So then these concerts of the Hot Club became first time something that really got accepted and got big attention. And only in 1934, they could do regular concerts. So this is in this beautiful book, Lose I Needed Just. So he speaks about Garland Wilson, who was a very important piano player, and of course, Freddie Johnson. And Freddie Johnson is a link into the lady you just mentioned.
Yes.
In 1933, a very famous actress who was original a Berliner and became famous with her big movie Blue Angel, Der Blaue Engel. She went to Hollywood, but she came to Europe every year, all the years, also to record in Berlin. She made her records still in Berlin, even in 1931. And in 1933, with the election of Hitler, she didn't dare coming to Germany. She spent holidays in Austria, and she went to Paris to record. And in Paris, she met her former arranger, Peter Kreuder. Oh, shall we cut? The telephone is ringing.
Yes,
Oh.
let's make another break.
Yes.
Why not? Part 3 will come.
If my heart